Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game Center Live, the weekly live stream talk show from the NYU Game Center. It's good to see you all on this lovely Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. We have got a great show planned for you today. First, you'll be meeting Raymond, who will be teaching us about the heart of the cards, showing off Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and chatting with Professor Charles Pratt. Afterward, it is once again time for the Discourse with Naomi Clark. She will be joined by patron of Pasta Divination and Game Center alum Jeff Petriello for a GDC debrief. But first, we have some announcements. Playtest Thursday happens every Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Get feedback on your work-in-progress games. It's in person and only open to NYU students. If you're not an NYU student and would like to try a remote playtest, head to our Discord for more information. Press Play, Saturdays from 1 to 3 p.m. Head to the NYU Game Center Open Library to play and discuss a game from the library's collection. This Saturday's game is the SNES classic Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Come check it out. Wednesday, March 30th. That's incorrect. Is this tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow. Yeah,
April 6th.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, April 6th at the same time?
Yes.
Tomorrow, April 6th at 11 a.m. on Zoom, local NYC studio Dots has job openings for Unity engineers. Manager of mobile engineering, Kirsten Sugar, will be here to give a brief overview of working at Dots and do one-on-one meetings to answer your questions about the positions. NYU Game Center Lecture Series presents Sean Pierre. This Thursday, April 7th at 7 p.m. in the second floor lecture hall, the newest addition to the NYU Game Center faculty, Sean Pierre, is giving his lecture series talk. Sean will be talking about the North Stars of game dev, happening in person and live streaming right here on this channel. RSVP for in-person attendance, that link is in chat. NYU Game Center Incubator Showcase, Thursday, April 21st at 7 p.m., live on this channel. The debut of our 5 2021 Incubator games. Join us for a virtual showcase where each of the Incubator developers will be interviewed about their game, progress, and process by their game's executive producer. Watch here on this Twitch channel. Game Devs of Color Expo 2022. Applications open now. Applications for talks and game submissions are now open for the Game Devs of Color Expo 2022. The expo will be happening online again this year, September 15th to the 18th, and submissions for the expo are due April 30th. Game Devs of Color is put on by an incredible group of organizers and annually one of the best events. We highly recommend submitting a talk or a game. Info in the link in chat. And lastly, our website, gamecenter.nyu.edu, is currently down. We're aware of the problem and working to fix it. In the meantime, use nyugamecenter.info or tish.nyu.edu/gamecenter. All right. Without further ado, I believe it is now time to duel. Please welcome to the stream Raymond and Charles Pratt. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Charles Pratt. I'm here with Raymond Lothian, and we are going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, maybe Master Duel is the version that we're going to be showing. Mm-hmm. But before we dive into that, let's talk about you, Ray. You're a BFA student. How did you find your way to the Game Center?
It's a very funny story. So I initially got my associates in game design from Hostess Community College in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember the year. It was 2015. Yeah, 2015 is when I finished my associate's degree right out of high school. Then I took a break from learning for a little bit to try to figure out like my place in the world. And then I realized I don't like working retail. So decided to really double down and finish my pursue my bachelor's. So end of 2017, I put my application in, and lo and behold, and now I am about to graduate in a little over a month, and I'm very excited / nervous.
So you'll have 2 game design degrees then?
Yes, although the first one didn't really do much as far as like game design development. Not for the program was great.
Yeah.
Not to like slander the program or anything. It just I had no idea like how to navigate the professional side of like game design.
Yeah.
So
it can be quite challenging, definitely. So
definitely.
How's your time at the Game Center been so far? What do you think of the place?
You know, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I like that I was in that sweet spot of starting out like at 2 Metro Tech before transitioning over to like 370. So it's I feel like I've kind of seen like all of the Game Center like so far. Everyone that I've met here has been like really, really great. You know, the classes like, you know, held by you, by Jesse, Greg Heffernan, like really, like I've had such a good time taking all my classes here at the Game Center, and of course all my fellow classmates, class of 2022, yay, have just been like really, really, really spectacular.
Yeah. So you're in Capstone right now. You're finishing it up.
Indeed, yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what Capstone is like for the students that might be watching that are going to be taking Capstone maybe in 1 or 2 years?
Yeah. So Capstone, for those of you who don't know, it is a 2-semester course where you have a project that you have either started working on previously or you're starting to work on at the beginning of the fall semester, and that you work on that game for the entire like academic year. So our project, the one that I'm working on right now, it's a kind of like a bit of both, where initially it started out as a prototype that our team lead had started, and then we got like our group like came together, and then we really decided to work on it and then like develop it like into something something more than like the initial prototype. So
and did this prototype come out of another class, or this was just something that they were working on their own?
I believe it was something they were working on their own, and then they were like having trouble like looking for partners to work on it with, just because there's a lot of programming, coding, art level design and such. So what I'm doing for our project is I'm acting as I'm playing 3 roles. So 2D level design, like parts of 2D level design is what I'm doing, pseudo producing, and then I worked on narrative elements, and then for that, like what in that case more like making sure that the elements that we have in the world, like all of our art and like our stuff, makes sense to like what the game is. So not as much. I mean, it does have writing involved, but it's a lot more thinking about like the back end. I'm like, okay, does this thing make sense to be in this game? Right. So thinking about it like that. So there are definitely other people like in our Capstone class that have had projects that they either started like straight from the get-go at the beginning of Capstone, and then I've seen projects that have also been worked on for like years. Like I think there's one group, or I think it was 1 or 2 groups in our Capstone section that they actually have their games like published on Steam, and that they're like working on like they're also like further developing alongside.
Oh, interesting.
Which I think is really
like Ritual Night is on.
Ritual Night is really, really nice.
Yeah. So you'll be done in a month or so, a month and a half. And are you excited to show off your game at the Game Center Showcase, which will be happening probably in May sometime? Keep your ears open, everybody.
Yeah, I am really excited for this show. Like, you know, it's the usual like excitement / nerves that come with like any sort of like big public presentation. I really think that what we have with our game is really special and like really unique. So I hope that when it comes time to the showcase, that people see the work that we put into it and they vibe with it. That's really all I can ask for.
Cool. All right. Well, why don't we turn to our main topic today, which is, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh!, the most popular card game in the world.
Indeed.
And you're going to be walking us through how it works. Just tell us a little bit about this game.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh! In itself, or how Master Duel works, because I might not have enough time.
It's your segment, Ray. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so Yu-Gi-Oh! For people who don't know, it is a collectible trading card game that has been around since I believe the
late 90s.
Late 90s to like early 2000s. I mean, I came across it from the anime on when it used to air like Kids WB, like way back in like the early 2000s. So I have a bit of like a history with it. I really played the TCG a lot when I was like a younger kid, and then to my it's when I started like middle school, high school was when I kind of like dropped off because Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't cool anymore, which was a lie.
How wrong you were.
I know. No, see what happened was that's when I learned that what meta games were.
I see.
And then
you realized you were behind it.
I was so behind it.
Yes.
It's like I would thought, oh, I was playing with my friends at like the lunch table. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this really well. And then I would meet people like, yeah, I go to tournaments. I'm like, I'm getting destroyed here.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like not wanting to give into the meta. Okay, now we're not wanting to give into the meta is kind of like why I took a step back from Yu-Gi-Oh.
I feel like lots of people, when they fall off of a trading card game, or really any competitive game, like that's the thing that happened. They realize that like, uh-oh, there are people who take this seriously, and I don't want to take this seriously, but also now the only people that will play with me
are people
like,
who take it seriously. Like a cousin of mine played like he played competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, and I remember I would just go to him. I was like, hey, I just take a look at my cards. Like, am I doing this right? And he was like, all right, no, this is why your synergy's all off. And like here, instead of having a full 60 card, bring it down to 40. And then I actually started winning, and I was like, ooh, I like this. But then Yu-Gi-Oh does what it always does. Every time a new show comes out, they have to introduce some ridiculous new mechanic to keep the game engaging, and it does keep it engaging, but it also frustrates everyone who's been playing for years.
Right.
So I want to say,
why don't we dive in and look at a card? Just maybe to start out, like, okay, what does a Yu-Gi-Oh card look like?
Okay,
and can you explain what we're looking at? I believe this game is actually published by Konami, right? Like the physical card game is also produced by Konami.
Konami publishes the
famous for Metal Gear Solid. And
let me see. Can I actually
Metal Gear Solid, the Pachinko version?
Yes, all your favorite Pachinko, Silent Hill,
Metal Gear Solid, the Battle Royale game. Silent Hill, the Pachinko machine. You know, the famous Pachinko game maker, Konami.
So I'll pull up a card right here. So this is a basic.
We have Dark
card.
Magician, the Dragon Knight.
Yes,
that's a lot to take in already.
Indeed,
it's a Dark Magician and a Dragon Knight, or it's Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight.
I believe it is Dark Magician who has obtained
the Dragon Knight?
knighthood.
I see. The Dark Magician isn't this person's name.
I think it is because this
Mr.
is just
Magician?
this is the
Mr.
regular.
Magician, the
this
Dragon
is just
Knight?
this is Dark Magician regular.
Oh, that's just Dark Magician.
He's the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense, which I mean I feel like at the time probably, but
now not so ultimate.
No, absolutely not. He's pretty mid, honestly.
Wow. So don't believe the hype, everyone. Dark Magician. Don't believe Dark Magician when he tells you
that he is the ultimate wizard.
Mr. Magician lies. All right, so this is a simpler card. So maybe let's start here.
Yeah.
So we have the name, obviously. I think that's going to make sense to anybody who plays a TCG. But okay, let's start with like the upper right corner. What is that purple circle with? It looks like some kanji.
Yeah. So this is the kanji for dark. So all cards in Yu-Gi-Oh will have this symbol in the corner which indicates their attributes. So in Yu-Gi-Oh there are three main types of cards. You have your monster cards, your spell cards, and your trap cards. This is a monster card as we see here, and these come in like a very, very wide variety. So you have like a normal one, which is like this guy. The purple guy was like a fusion monster. And then there's like effects. There's effects Gemini.
Let's take it one step. Okay, so there's different types of cards.
Yes.
There's like monster spells, and you said trap cards. So two of those probably make sense to anyone who's played Magic the Gathering or any other TCG. We'll talk about trap cards maybe. And then they have a kind of affinity. You're saying there's like dark.
Yeah, the affinity for most, so it can come into effect where you can build your deck around a certain archetype. So,
but are like certain affinities weak to other affinities?
No, not like that. You have affinities that are boosted by other effects, but not really necessarily like, oh, this one always will trump this one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like in any given battle.
All right. So then we look, and there's many stars in orange circles. Are those Dragon Balls? What are those?
No. So this indicates a monster's level. And how that comes into effect in the game is you have, I believe it's from like 1 to 12. So depending,
12 levels.
Yeah. Okay. So monsters that are ranked between 1 to 4, you can play those like normally. You don't have to do anything for the most part to summon them onto the field. 5 and 6 are you need to tribute a monster in order to play them on your field, and then 7 and up will usually be 2 tributes two tributes. So if I had like to summon this guy, I would need to summon like I need to sacrifice two these like level 2 guys or
I see.
lower.
So they're also the level is also you can use them to pay that much in like mana to summon higher level.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
There are cards that do that. There are
Okay.
cards, but not for the sake of like the Dark Magician specifically.
But what is a tribute?
So tribute, let's say, I mean, this will kind of come in like when I show you the
All right,
replay.
let's go back to the card. Let's get through this card, and then we'll move on to the game.
Can I click? Yes.
Okay. All right. So you've got the level, which is 7 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Helpfully, they've not put the number up there, so you have to count, I guess, every time you want to learn. You can't glance and tell what the level of something is.
Yeah, no.
Strange.
No, it's
strange design
it's
decision.
very good for the video games. It's a
Right.
real pain in the butt for the actual physical cards.
Fair enough. Then let's move to the very bottom.
Mhm.
We have attack 2,500
Mhm.
and defense
2100.
2,100.
Yes.
What are those?
So your attack value, it's kind of hard to like explain it because it just feels. So your attack value indicates like how much damage you would do to your opponent if this monster was, say, attacking them directly. So you start out with 8,000 life points. Like both players.
8,000 life points.
Yeah, both players start with 8,000 life points at the beginning of a duel. So
You started playing this game when you were how old?
I started playing this game when I was 7.
7.
Yes.
Could you count that high? 8,000 seems like an
No,
extraordinarily
see, which is funny because
large number.
the show does it.
7-year-old child.
So
to
how
deal
the
with.
show does it. The show does it is like, oh, duels only took like 4,000 life points, so it's a little bit easier to do it like that.
I
So
see.
we would play like, oh, it's 4,000, then you just use a calculator. But then like, oh, the actual TCG rules are like, no, you do 8,000. It's like, well, that seems a little ridiculous. But
It all
then
seems quite excessive if you're coming from another TCG, where like
yeah, no, my partner
40, I think, is
she
a pretty
hates this
high-
game.
Who?
My partner hates this
I see.
game.
Okay.
Like she loves Magic. Anytime I try to talk to her about Yu-Gi-Oh, it's an instant like end of conversation. I don't want to talk about
Right.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Right.
But yeah, so the
I got
attack
that
value.
news right. Your partner may have better taste than you. I know you might have to just come to terms with that. Magic the Gathering is maybe a better game than Yu-Gi-Oh, but not as popular, and that's why we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, so we've got a crazy amount of attack, a crazy amount of defense, and then some text. Do you want to explain the text to us?
So this text means nothing. Absolutely useless. It is flavor text with a capital
You
F.
ignore the text on the card.
For this card, yes, because
Oh, I see.
it's indicated by the fact that it says normal. That means that's just flavor text.
Right,
Where the text
okay,
actually comes in effect on the card is if it's got when it says like effect.
Okay.
So-
and now we have to read, oh my god.
Yes. So you can send up to two spell or trap
I'm
cards
just looking
from
at the
your
text
hand.
on the card.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a large. How on earth? If I had a physical version of this card, what font is that? Is that like 3-point font?
It's very small.
You were 7 years old when you started playing this game.
See, but the game wasn't this complicated when I started playing. This is
There's much
very
less
recent,
text.
much less text.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Like early 2000s Yu-Gi-Oh, it was just like card, magic, trap. Oh, that's it.
All right.
No, modern Yu-Gi-Oh is just okay. Let me just spam the field.
Right.
Like how much can I
You're
spam
like
the field in one
a
turn?
medieval scholastic monk with like your magnifying glass reading.
Yeah, no,
this
it
tiny
is.
red. Okay.
It is ridiculous.
Okay, all right. Talk us through this. This is a trap card.
No, this is an effect monster. So as indicated by so it says effect. You see it has a level.
It has one level.
It has one level.
I can count
so
that many
it is
Dragon
a
Balls.
it is a 1-star monster. What is unique about this card is that for this deck that we have right here, this is the this is essentially how we get our boss monster, which was the Dark Magician, onto the field as fast as possible.
But you said the Dark Magician wasn't very good.
He's not on his own, but
Oh, I see.
that's where he has like his support cards, which will be all of
okay.
these green magic cards.
Normal spell.
Normal
okay.
spell. So if I control a Dark Magician,
Uh-huh.
I can destroy all spell and trap cards my opponent controls.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So now the text is important.
Yes, now that's where the text really comes into play.
Okay. So this has, I just want to go back to this because this has, in lieu of the level, it has spell card, but in square brackets.
Yes,
Why is it in square brackets?
I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough.
It's for emphasis, I assume.
Okay, all right. Maybe they just didn't take those out on the spreadsheet? All right.
Probably not.
Okay, all right.
And then we would have a trap card.
Trap card.
Also
Square
brackets.
Okay.
Trap card.
Magic cylinder. That does look pretty magical.
Indeed, you can tell because it's
I noticed
glowy.
this game doesn't list the artists who worked on these cards.
It does not, and it has been very frustrating because I think they only just published like a collection of the art with the artist properly credited like very recently. In the mid 2000s, trying to find like who the artist was a nightmare.
Interesting.
I assume it's like some type of it's like part of the contract that they have like the artists do with Konami. For some reason, I don't know why they have it like that. I think it's not. It's not
it's
very
quite unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. But I do before we run out of time, I do want to showcase like an actual like a duel in action.
Okay, let's go to a duel. Hopefully, we know enough.
Yes,
we definitely don't know enough, everybody, but we're gonna follow along.
I'm gonna show you. I think one of the greatest moments that I've ever had in this game, and I lost this duel, by the way. But it's just.
We're watching a replay.
We're gonna watch a replay, yes, because I feel like
excellent.
if we try to play a duel, we wouldn't have time because either
we'd be looking for another player.
Yeah. Also, the connection would probably time out because this netcode is atrocious. So okay,
excellent.
So this is I'm the player here on the bottom screen, and then this is my opponent on the opposite end.
There's the Dark Wizard.
Indeed, he is there.
So you get to know your opponent knew that you were like a Dark Wizard deck.
No. So you don't really know until you start seeing like the cards that you're playing.
I see. Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of giving it away because my little
that's just a little mascot you can put.
Yeah, it's a little mascot you can put there. Yeah.
Oh,
So what's happening here? All right. So this gets into okay. Well, it just thing. So we've got a chain going on here.
Okay.
So he activated one card, and then I activated a card in response.
Okay.
Now, how this works is Yu-Gi-Oh has things like it's called chains. So what will happen is when you play an effect, if your opponent or you activate an effect in response to that first effect, then you have to follow the chain of succession basically. So it's whatever the latest card was, then you follow that effect.
Right. It's the stack from Magic. Basically.
Essentially, yeah. So he activated an effect that would destroy my two spell and trap cards right here. Then I activated an effect in response that would let me special summon my Dark Magician, even though it's his turn.
Right.
From my hand. But now, since my card's going to get destroyed anyway.
Dark Magician.
Bam, he is on the
Mr.
field.
Magician has arrived.
And then also I get to special summon
cool.
another spellcaster monster from my deck.
Illusion Magician. Okay.
Now he is playing his cards. He is summoning these tokens, which don't have actual cards that exist in the game.
Oh, okay. And he's putting them sideways. He's tapping them?
No. So he's summoning them in this is the defense position. So when he has these monsters in defense position, if I attack, he'll take no damage from his life points up here.
I see. But those will be destroyed.
Yes, but they will be destroyed.
Because they don't have any defense, it looks like.
Now, he just added a card to his hand, which is his boss monster.
Oh, and you get to see that?
Yeah, because you have to showcase, and now he has summoned the
that
Galaxy
dragon looks
Eyes.
really good. Galaxy Eyes after...
he has summoned the Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon.
Okay.
Which is very strong, and
it's pretty good.
You can tell because it has 3,000. That's the ultimate.
That is a really big number. I gotta say, I don't even know if there are numbers.
And look,
that are higher
he summoned
than
a second one.
What, another Galaxy Eyes?
And now,
Photon?
okay, he's doing the thing. He's doing.
Wait, what is happening? Oh my God.
Okay, okay.
Cypher Dragon.
So now he's stacking. So that's another summoning mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh.
You played this when you were 7 years old.
It didn't have all of this.
All right, keep going. Keep going. You have 30 seconds.
I have 30 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna have to fast forward this.
We have 5 minutes. 30 seconds until 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. 30 seconds to 5 minutes. But okay, so he is stacked. And now, this is where I want to talk about. This is the problem with current Yu-Gi-Oh meta. So you see how I
see lots of problems. I'm going to be honest
with you,
Raymond, but go ahead.
I had 2 monsters here.
You did.
He has 4 now.
That's a lot.
That's not fair.
It seems like he's winning.
It's only 1 turn.
Was that your fault?
No, that wasn't even my fault.
Is there something you could have done to stop this?
It's not even
Looking back on this game now, are you like, my mistake was...
I should have drawn my out. That was my mistake. It was my bad. It was my bad for not drawing the card good.
I see.
So, yes, as you can see, he has swarmed his field with 3,000 plus attack monsters. So when he hits me, I'm going to lose.
Right.
It's just a question. It's just a matter of how long can I prevent me from losing. And look, now he has summoned another monster.
A Galaxy Eyes full. How many Galaxy Eyes does this guy have?
There are a lot of Galaxy Eyes.
All in his deck?
Yes. So, God. So Yu-Gi-Oh has. When you have
click on that new monster. I mean, they all look really big. They all look. Oh, they have slightly different stats. It looks like.
Yeah, they all have different.
This is number 62. Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon Dragon. What does the number 62 refer to?
So the numbers are an archetype. So kind of like how the Dark Magician is part of an archetype that is just
what, magicians?
Yeah, kind of like you have and then archetypes, kind of like what I mentioned before, like how you have like the attributes. Usually archetypes will have support built around them, and then you usually build your deck centered around.
And this creature's archetype is the number 62.
Well, no. So the creature's archetype would be the Galaxy Eyes. And then the number is just, it's part of like another, from one of the other anime. It really doesn't matter for the context of this. But what this is, so what he did was, you see how these stars are inverted?
Are approaching a kind of like outsiderish art kind of vibe, right? It's
because
like
they're aliens.
The text is getting taller and taller as more and more words get crammed in.
Yeah,
that text at the bottom gets. So that text is important, though, right?
This text is important because it's an effect.
So if you were playing this in real life, you'd have to read that card.
Yes.
Wow.
I would have to read that card, and also I'd have to memorize that card effect so that when I did it, because at least what the benefit of playing the games and why I always like playing Yu-Gi-Oh games as opposed to playing like actual in-person Yu-Gi-Oh is because the games handle all of the effect stuff.
The video
for
games,
you
mean?
Yeah, the video games handle like all the effect like applications for you, all of the chaining for you. It's so much better than like having to wait for like a person to like sit there and read like, oh wait a minute, my effect doesn't do. Okay, actually no. No, that works.
This was like a physical card game that was just waiting for a digital implementation.
Yeah, no, like this is the Yu-Gi-Oh answer to Hearthstone.
Right.
And it just came out like this year, and
really?
Yu-Gi-Oh has been around for what like we said like the late 90s.
More than 20 years. At this
yeah,
point.
No, it is like they've had other video games, but all the other video games were just you're playing against like CPU.
Right.
So this is like the first officially licensed, because there was like online stuff that was done like by fans and such.
Right.
But even like the fan games were you had to like all the judging, like all the rulings for like effects and stuff, they had to be like overseen by a moderator who would come in and like, okay, no, this works, this goes first.
Okay. All right.
This is the chain.
All right, let's continue with this match. You're getting beaten quite badly.
I haven't been attacked yet, but I'm going to. Oh, and he destroyed my monster with his effect. And now it is my turn again. What am I to do?
That wasn't the Dark Magician. Okay,
that wasn't the Dark Magician.
What are you gonna do?
So luckily, I drew my guy again, and now I can special summon another Dark Magician. But I can't. I thought I could, but it just didn't work out like that.
Well, but you don't know why.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. That's also the problem about Master Duel is that it tells you like you can use your effects and it does it for you, but it doesn't tell
you very clearly. That
yeah, it's a little touchy. Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But because I activated my trap card over here, I got to special summon the Dark Magician that was already in my hand, as well as another card from my deck directly. So now it is his turn.
Galaxy Eyes Dragon coming.
And he summoned another Galaxy Eyes.
What happened to his last one?
Where
do they keep going?
So what's happening here is when he's
ooh, I like that effect.
When he's summoning his monsters here. So these cards in black, these are called Exceed monsters.
Okay.
So what these do, how you summon these is that if you have the required material, which is like over here, so it's like 2 level 10 monsters.
Okay.
What you do is you stack those 2 cards like on top of each other, and then you play this card on top. So what that does is the 2 cards that you stacked on the bottom become the Exceed material, and then in order to use this guy's effect, you usually have to detach one of those material cards and send them to like your graveyard.
Okay. All right, keep going.
Okay, so that's what he's been doing. He's just been stacking all of his guys together to absolutely destroy me. And see, he detached one of his cards. I've been attacked.
Okay.
And now I shall be attacked directly, I believe.
Ouch.
And look, there we go. And I love it. The game tells you, like, hey, final blow, you've lost.
Wow.
And then it slows down for, like, extra impact.
Yeah.
My board gets destroyed. Oof. My little Dark Magician is sad. I've been defeated.
So we just watched you get bodied.
Indeed.
Is that the heart of the cards?
Yeah, honestly. Okay. That's the heart of the cards, is watching me get bodied.
Getting bodied by some random on the internet. He summoned, as far as I can tell, 8 different dragons.
There was
on turn 3.
Yeah, he summoned 8 different dragons on turn 3.
But you had an out, which was your out card.
Yeah, I had an out. but I didn't play it. I didn't play it properly, and that was my fault. I should have been better at the game.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we all could get better. Is this a game that you practice? You like study and you're working on your deck, or do you just like kind of fire it up and play it for fun?
It's kind of a bit of both. I feel like the fun with Yu-Gi-Oh, at least the fun that I have with Yu-Gi-Oh, is playing the way that I want. Like, I mean, they like, of course, you have like meta, and you have like the guarantee, like, okay, you can do this to win. But I've never really been a fan of those. So I usually just play. I'll find like an archetype like that I enjoy playing, and then I'll just stick with it to that. I mean, I'll tweak it like here and now, like now and then to get better results, of course. But like with this, I found out that it was on like myself. Like they came out on mobile, and I was like, oh man, I can play Yu-Gi-Oh on my phone. Right. All right, so I downloaded it, and then I realized, okay, you can actually you can link your account to the different like clients like across like PC and as console. So when I figured that, I was like, okay, well, hey, I can play Yu-Gi-Oh basically in all of my places that I play video games at.
All right, last question. If any of our students want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, should they come to you? Are you going to be our Yu-Gi-Oh master at the Game Center?
I think I might be the only person in the Game Center who plays Yu-Gi-Oh.
That's a yes, everybody. If you want to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, find Raymond Lothian here at the Game Center. You're only here for another month and a half.
Yes.
Good luck with your capstone.
Wait, Charles, before we go, do we have time?
We don't have time.
I want to open packs. Okay.
No.
That's like the best part of card games.
I didn't even know there were packs.
Yeah, you can buy packs.
Thank you, Raymond. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll send you back over to Logan.
Thank you so much for that, Charles and Raymond. I believe we all learned a lot. I still don't know what Pot of Greed does. We didn't cover that. Maybe next time. But thank you so much. That was Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel with Raymond Lothian and Charles Pratt. Next up, we have the Discourse with Naomi Clark and Jeff Petriello. Bear with us while we set up for the next segment. All right, without further ado, take it away, Naomi and Jeff.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Discourse. Today, my co-host is Jeff Petriello, Game Center alum and adjunct professor.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here today.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We wanted to talk to Jeff this week because you were at the Game Developers Conference since the last time the Discourse ran.
Yes, I was. It was like that wasn't last week, but 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was a grand return, I suppose. It's sort of like a whimper at the same time. It was the first time, obviously, I'd been back since 2019.
Right.
COVID, obviously, messing up GDC the last 2 years. So I didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, it was a mixed bag, I'd say. But yeah. I'm glad I made it out to San Francisco.
There were some ups and downs, it sounds like, and we saw some, there's definitely some coverage of that. So we're going to get to that as our main topic. But I thought we would start off with something lighter. So this first link comes to us courtesy of Alexander King. And it's about kindergarten people and kids suffering under the thumb of gamification, except not really suffering, they're mastering it. Right, so check out this Twitter thread. This is about a 6-year-old kid who started playing Wordle in class. But like, go down the thread a little bit, Logan, because the real story starts to unfold. All right, so in this class, they get points for completing stories that they're reading like in a software app,
Okay, yeah.
right? And then you can use the points, and I think this is where the real downfall of the system is, in my opinion,
Okay.
right? Like, okay, points, whatever, but then they actually want the points because they can buy stuff for their avatars, right? So now it's like, okay, starts to sound a little bit more appealing, but then here's the real mistake. The teacher gave them all the same password. So now, of course, they're logging into each other's accounts and like messing up their and like making each other's avatars ugly.
Yeah.
That's excellent. But then the real kicker, go down one more tweet, right? So then they figured out that the best way to grind points
Oh my God.
is to just go through the story without even reading it. Like, just flip the pages, get to the end, get all the questions wrong. This is great, right? So, like, they almost, like, don't care about the question. Just give any answer to the question, and then just getting the points for completing the story. So they all have, like, thousands and thousands of points, right? So the original educational intent of this is a total failure, right? Like, they're not reading on tablets. I don't know. Maybe you could just, like, read a book instead. But they've learned how to defeat algorithms.
Yeah, this is sort of surreptitious learning, I would say, in a way. Yeah, definitely proud of these kindergartners for at least figuring something out here. It's a little bit of a design lesson.
Right, and it is, like Will Raymond says in this Twitter thread, it is a 21st century skill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That, so probably, I don't know. I feel like these kids, as they get to be adults, they're going to just encounter more and more and more versions of this.
Yes.
So, yeah, being able to dodge and exploit, and actually, I don't know, do something interesting with your peers instead of whatever you're supposed to be doing. It's probably a form of 21st century.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like the idea that they all had the same password. It was sort of like a chaotic design choice.
Yeah.
And obviously, emotions notwithstanding, I hope people didn't take their avatars too seriously. These are kindergartners.
Right.
We want them to be safe, but there is something kind of interesting about Oh, thanks, Siri. Sorry.
Sorry, Siri.
There is something kind of interesting about being in a group where everyone kind of has access to...
Right. It's like a shared pool of avatars.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
It's a little bit like one of those role-playing games where people like rotate characters.
Yeah, definitely.
But the what I want to know is, did they give each kid a slip of paper that's like, here's your password, but they all had the same password on it?
I'm
sure
they
get emails that are like, put in your password?
It's like, here's your password, like ABC123.
Yeah,
Make sure you
exactly.
change it, and they just totally forgot.
Probably, yeah. Like, why would you change it?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Or like, why would even a kid change it? All right. So with that intro, let's jump into talking about the GDC. So here's the Washington Post with their game vertical launcher.
Nice.
They did a serious report on GDC. One of the authors here is Nathan Grayson, longtime game journalist. Let's see, what were the 5 takeaways that the Washington Post had for GDC? All right, so of course, like you were saying, it's like the grand return. I heard that it was maybe about half the attendance of.
I would say
before.
it felt like less.
Less than half.
Yeah. It felt like less, especially when you were on the expo floor. It was like, it felt like maybe a third.
Right.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, so some people said, oh, that's actually kind of nice.
It was.
I wasn't like running into people constantly. I could actually have longer conversations, maybe have a little bit more FaceTime with people. What was your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I said it was kind of a mixed bag, because yes, on the one hand, it was actually nice that there weren't so many people. You didn't feel so crowded. There wasn't 10,000 events that you felt pressured to go to. You could really like walk around the conference,
right,
see what you want, have space. Like, in my opinion, like, I felt very safe. I didn't have to sit next to anyone if I didn't feel comfortable. But on the other hand, there was, that lack of sort of spontaneous meeting of people that you get when, there's a large group of people.
It didn't have that like particle collider effect where like everybody is here like bouncing off of each other and like there's
exactly
like vibes going on. Or I remember people used to always say like, ooh, what's the unexpected cultural thing that's like taking GDC by storm? I guess maybe we'll find out from this article. But you know what? Actually right here on screen is mentioned Yerba Buena Gardens. And that was the site of some controversy, right? Because there was somebody like I saw, I don't think we have a link for this tweet, but somebody was saying there were people who tested positive for COVID who were just hanging out without telling anybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, since GDC, my Twitter feed has just been like sub-tweet central, and I have no idea what's going on half of the time. But I saw that stuff too. Apparently, there's been a few cases of folks reporting on Twitter that they know of people who tested positive for COVID and went out and socialized anyway, which is actually illegal to do in California, I'm pretty sure, and also just morally bankrupt. But
it's all like vague accusations, right? People are like, I know this person, right?
I haven't heard any names. And also, Yerba Buena is always the hangout spot, outside at
At
GDC.
least it's outdoors, but still, it's not cool.
But still, even then, it felt like there was a third of the amount of people that normally were
interesting.
there. So I hope that people stayed as safe as possible, and even the folks who are bad actors didn't have as much of an impact as they could have.
Right, maybe the crowds weren't that. So let's see what the other 4 trends were. One of them was support for Ukraine. That, of course, started weeks and weeks back. That the Ukraine Humble Bundle was enormous.
Ooh, yeah, that was awesome.
Was this visible at GDC, or was sort of more happening online?
I didn't see any visual support for Ukraine while I was at GDC.
Okay,
personally.
So this one maybe not actually such an in-person trend, but sort of going on at the same time. With major game companies kind of pulling their sales in Russia and so forth, and doing an embargo. Let's keep going down. Industry consolidation, of course. That's a big story, right? We've talked about this here a few weeks back with Mitu. So Take-Two bought Zynga. Right? I didn't expect that to happen. Microsoft, a week later, bought Activision Blizzard, blowing that previous news story out of the water. Then Sony bought Bungie. I'm sure there have been some more smaller ones.
And there's rumors now they're about to buy From Software, right? I don't know if that was
really?
Yeah, I saw that.
It's I feel like these rumors, there's a chance that these rumors crop up whenever there's a popular game, so-and-so's going to buy so-and-so. And there's a quote from Roblox, right? So were people talking about this? Was this a topic?
I did. I also didn't hear any of this on GDC. I'm only one person with an individual experience, but these were not the trends that I noticed. I definitely noticed some trends, but obviously this is a huge one in the game industry in general, but I didn't hear
these
too
are
much chatter.
The 50,000 foot visible trends. What, anything else that was on the ground level?
So I think the weirdest trend that I noticed was on the Expo floor, you normally have a lot of large, visible companies. I remember in 2019, there was Stadia Land. It usually are these huge displays of corporate influence, right?
Yeah.
And this time there were there were certainly less because I think of the pandemic, but all of them, I had no idea what any of them were. That was the big thing.
They were just they weren't recognizable brands.
I had what are these brands? And then, literally 9 times out of 10, it was some NFT blockchain.
Yeah, okay, wait, let's scroll down. Are we at the NFT one? Yes, that's the next trend. So there's your experience lined up with what people are reporting on. So every few years at GDC, I have to say there is something like this. Right, maybe 5 years ago it was a lot of VR companies showed up. 5 years before that it was all social game, Facebook game companies. But this feels a little different somehow. It's just weird carpetbaggers.
It was bizarre. It felt, I actually had tweeted this. I was it felt like there were 2 GDCs. It was the one that I'm used to going, and then one where there was just a bunch of bros in t-shirts that said things we ship AAA games on blockchain fast. It was.
Oh, that's amazing!
Bizarre.
Now those are the people I want to work with. The people who are AAA games fast on the blockchain forever.
So it was just really weird because there were these very impressive, obviously expensive displays from these companies that I just literally had never heard of, and every time we walked up to one, it was okay. And then it's what do you actually do? And it's very confusing. And it was a bizarre trend.
Yeah, every time I hear somebody being okay, let's try to find out what this thing actually is, it's always just a weird cloud of smoke that no, it's not clear. They're oh, we're making this amazing game. It's it's an open world Pokemon fighting game, but it has NFTs all over it.
It was very bizarre. And the same went for the panels as well. There were all of these sponsored panels that were all NFT and crypto focused. And it felt like there was very few sort of naturally, organically occurring ones. So it was really these 2 parallel conferences.
It sort of points out part of the nature of GDC is that it's an event that runs on sponsorships, right? And people like buying these big booths, right? And the company that runs it is like a big publishing, like tech manual publishing company, right? So when this wave of people like sweep into town and think that there's a gold rush, then of course GDC is going to be like, yeah, sure, come on by.
Please.
Like set up your thing, we'll run your sponsored session. Did you go to any NFT sessions?
So I made a point of not because
seems wise.
Yeah, this was really my first GDC where I wasn't working. Previously, I had gone as a volunteer, and a lot of my time had been spent, which was great productive time, in those roles. And this, I really wanted to enjoy going to exactly what I wanted to go to when I wanted to go. So I was enjoying that, and I did not want to really
I think that's entirely reasonable. I think there's one more thing on here. Oh, labor issues, right.
Ooh,
yes. So of course, they're not just Activision Blizzard, but that's like been the one that's been in the media thoroughly, because what I thought was really exciting about this topic was that the Communications Workers of America, the union that's really been making a lot of inroads in helping to unionize game studios, had a big booth with volunteers.
I definitely noticed that, and it was a really awesome booth. They even had these interactive kind of like visual novel games that led you through like union busting and stuff.
Nice.
So I've definitely noticed that booth, and they were doing a great job out there.
Right.
That was awesome to see.
And we're seeing the intersection between like Anita Sarkeesian, notorious for talking about representation of women, because it's also like, actually, look, that's connected to labor practices and sexual harassment. It's all part of one big story. The let's actually. Okay, first, a slight detour. Let's go to the next link. This is from Chris Wallace. So I should have talked this NFTs. This is the worst new NFT thing of the week.
Oh,
you can put your prayers on the blockchain. This is somehow amazingly bad. It's like, instead of just praying to God and having it rise up into the ether, now you can put your prayers on the blockchain and they'll be there forever because the blockchain is eternal.
Yes.
It's the why I don't know what to say about it. But somehow it fits, right? It's like
this is perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. It's like, I'm praying. I don't know what's gonna happen. Please let me make some money. Let someone buy this from me. But this is kind of dispensing of that and just being like, you know what? Just pay and we'll put your prayer there, and that's it. It's maybe it's the most honest NFT.
Honestly, yeah, it's not unlike the church in a more abstract sense.
Right.
So,
it's
there's
it's
some
the new
mapping
digital
on
church.
there. Yeah.
All right, but back to labor issues. Let's go to the next link. A new lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. Right. So hit during GDC. And unfortunately, it's very similar to the previous stories from Activision Blizzard. There's somebody who had been working there for years and endured terrible sexual harassment and discrimination, repeatedly subjected to unwanted advances, right? So, and this kind of just trickles down from the top of the corporate culture, right? And Bobby Kotick, there was retaliation, right? So here's what is significant for GDC. Flip over to the next link. At the same time that this is happening, the Women in Games International event for GDC was sponsored by Activision Blizzard. So
this is the world we live in.
Yeah, this is the world we live in. So let's just talk about. So not only was it like, okay, obviously Activision Blizzard trying to repair its image, being like, oh, we'll sponsor this event this year. And Women in Games International, which is a long-running advocacy organization for women in the game industry. But then on top of that, a bunch of people were putting out tweets. I think Elizabeth Beinecke was one of them, and a number of others, saying there were people in attendance who were sort of known to prey on young women, which has happened for a long time at parties at GDC, right? It's a... Yeah.
It's a really sad part of the culture there. I mean, even outside of this event, like, I met some incredible devs there I sat for dinner with someone that I had a lot of respect for and was so excited with, and they actually looked at me and were like, you know what, I feel like I'm gonna get a drink. I feel comfortable. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, well, a lot of times, like, I won't drink at GDC because every year I know a woman whose drink gets roofied. Right. But she's like, I feel comfortable around you, and you are a mutual friend of mine, so I'm going to order a drink. And I was like, I would hope that you would feel comfortable ordering a drink at this restaurant. Like, it just pained me so much to hear that. This is a really real issue that women and other minority folk deal with at GDC. So, to see this, which I think a lot of people looked at as just sort of like a crass, I don't know, mashup of things that should not go together, this sponsorship with this event. Right. And then again, to have it populated with people that they felt were bad actors, right? It just seemed like a whole mess. Although, Naomi, from my understanding, Activision Blizzard was this was part of the deal when, I'm forgetting her name, but that executive, the woman executive who left last year, part of her leaving, part of the deal was that they were going to sponsor.
Right.
Women,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, what I think is, so unfortunately, one side of this is it's utterly terribly predictable. Going back decades and decades, there have always been parties at GDC and a lot of industry events where bad actors, like you're saying, there are predatory guys who are oh, there's going to be a lot of young women and game developers at this party, and they'll use those events to be able to prey on people. But how does this Activision Blizzard thing happen? I think that's worth digging into. So one, there were actually people at Activision Blizzard who were we have to do something to make up for this. Then from the point of view of Women in Games International, I think that's the difficult question, right? Do you take this money from this organization that has really not cleaned up its act yet? Are you part of this cleanup process? Yeah. Because obviously this isn't, the whole thing backfires because it's a drunken party at a big industry event where there are a lot of predatory people, right? So if you're going to do that, right, take money as part of this kind of rehabilitation. At the very least, you should not just duplicate the exact same things that are happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a great idea online, at least I thought so, which was why not make the event for women only?
Sure.
There's no, in my opinion, there's plenty of events for everyone to go to.
Yeah, why is it a mixture with drinks? Why are companies involved in I mean, I don't know. We could keep asking questions, right? Companies are involved in sponsoring big parties because big parties are expensive, and so they need sponsors. But it's not that's the only thing that could have happened, right? That's not the only thing where you could take money from Activision Blizzard and actually try to use it for some sort of reparative justice.
It reminds me a little of the online trend that I saw happening while I was at GDC, paralleling with the conference, which was the "what a game dev looks like" hashtag.
Right. Actually, go forward to there we go. So this is CC Jiang interviewed JC Lau, who started that hashtag. Yeah,
it's an amazing hashtag. Check it out if you haven't on Twitter or Instagram. It's so cool to see all the game devs out there. But you could see online what happened was slowly a lot of white cis men were posting to this hashtag and kind of getting called out and being well, I don't understand. I am a game dev, whatever, but they're the point of this hashtag is to show
it's not
that
it's not mentioned in the name of the hashtag. It's
exactly
right. So they're well, I'm a game dev, and there are 4 times as many of them as everyone knows.
And there's still I don't think, and I hope a lot of those men were not ill-intentioned, right, in participating.
Sure. Right, they just didn't know about the point.
They need to be educated, right, or they're not culturally aware of what's going on here, right? And the same is around these types of events, like the Women in Games event. It's you look at something like that, and you might ask yourself, is this for me?
Right.
And if it's not for me, and I want to go anyway, why? And should I, right? Those, I think, are questions that people who haven't had to ask themselves that previously are still kind of learning. I'm being very gracious here, but I think there's an element to that's happening, and I think it would be fine for GDC to just say, actually, maybe let's take that option away for a little bit until people,
Yeah, and it's distressing to me because it's just the game industry does not learn, right? The same kind of thing just happens over and over and over again. And so Women in Games International, I've been to one of their banquets once. It's kind of a high-powered business organization. It's there for networking, they always ask good friend of the Game Center, Colleen Macklin, who runs the program, Games Technology program over at Parsons, to speak as their sort of like token queer woman. And but it never has felt to me, and I know a lot of other people, like, is this really for all women in games? No, it's like if you want to get to the executive level.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And then it functions structurally to be like the depository of guilt money. Right, and then to run parties that where people go to find women in games. It's like it's on the label, right? Like where predators look for women in games. But I wanted to show an article from like almost 10 years ago. So let's get back. So this is an article from 2013. This is the IGDA ran a party in 2013 where they were roundly criticized, actually for something that is not literally men preying on women at a party. Wait, scroll back up. Is there somebody we know in that picture? I think that's Maddie Bryce there, right next to Robin Hooneke, who we talked about with Maddie 2 weeks ago. And then up in the front on the stage there is Brenda Romero. Right, so Brenda Romero resigned this year because she went to the IGDA party and they had paid a lot of local dancers, like, no disrespect at all to local dancers in San Francisco, right? They were taking a gig. But what Brenda Romero resigned over is, this is an industry party for the IGDA that's sort of meant to be the most inclusive organization. And it's kind of done up in the same way as like a stereotypical booth babe 90s GDC party where it's like, you've hired a bunch of women to like be up on platforms dancing. And everyone knows that the reason that's a tradition in the game industry, a number of industries, is just sheer sort of misogyny and catering to dudes and like trying to create a social event, industry networking event for dudes where they can get drunk and then try to stuff dollar bill. Yeah, after go to a strip club afterwards, right? When I started working in games, it was definitely like, hey, everyone's going to the strip club after this conference or after this meeting, and the women there had to be like, yeah, I'm cool. I'll go to a strip club too if you wanted to actually be part of business networking. And that was like in the early 2000s.
You're not the first person to tell me that literally this week.
Yeah, and that, I'll just say, was at Lego, a kid's toy company. Wow. So, it's completely rampant. And so this is from 10 years ago. And then from this year, it's like, okay, well, I don't know. Did people learn not to hire booth babes all over the place? I mean, maybe there's a little bit less than there was 10 years ago. But now it's just like a drunken party where men are preying on women still, right? And so a bunch of people resigned from the IGDA at this point. But it still feels like not a whole lot has changed. Yeah. All right, we have a little extra time, so we have a couple bonus round things. Let's go to... Yeah, so this is an article I ran across. There are a ton of video game adaptations coming to Netflix. So this article, I think if you are interested in the cultural spread of narrative properties from games, is worth reading, because this writer, Jackson Weaver, makes the case that like this is not good for games. That really it's a kind of strip mining of games for intellectual property. Right, so there was a Halo series that came out on the Paramount Plus streaming service a week ago. I haven't heard anybody talking about the Halo series, but I'm sure there are diehard Halo fans who are like, yes, finally I get to watch a half-hour animations with Master Chief or something, right? And follow the story of Halo the series, and then whatever, The Last of Us. There's going to be a Last of Us show. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, man.
Let's actually, I think this is pretty interesting. Generally, I think comparisons, like, I think people often compare games to film as some sort of aspirational media that they want to achieve the esteem of film, which I think is detrimental to games as a whole.
And there absolutely are people in the game industry who are like, oh, okay, we're going to make a game as a stepping stone. And the big time is going to be when we like get the budget of a TV show or movie and it's almost like, let's forget all of this game stuff because there's all this pesky stuff with games, right? gamers being mad at you, having to design a game, software bugs, ongoing tech support, like whatever, right? And so it's like, you know what? Let's just leave all that behind and just tell the story of the characters, because intellectual property is like this valuable thing in Hollywood, or anywhere in the entertainment industry is like the holy grail to try and create. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do think you hit on a term there that I think is important here, which is character.
Yeah.
I do sometimes think if characters are so compelling, like they can become transmedia properties, and I think that kind of goes outside of the translation from video game to film. That kind of like exists, I think, kind of larger. I remember when I was younger watching the Mario cartoons and stuff like that was actually quite enriching,
right,
and I got a lot out of that. I thought it was a hoot, right? So I think there's certainly translations.
Sure, and Pokemon is still the biggest transmedia franchise of all time.
But
right?
I think like The Last of Us, for instance, is a great example. And a talk that I saw at GDC shed some light on why I think this kind of adaptation people are chomping at the bit to make. It's because, like Naughty Dog, for instance, they think when they're designing their games about the characters as like the player being the actor that's playing the character in the video game, which I thought was really interesting. And it's an explicitly cinematic way of design, right? And I think with The Last of Us, for instance, it's meant to feel cinematic when you play it. And so people naturally are like, well, let's see it on screen. But like the fun part is that you actually got to act in it. So I don't, we'll see what that works out.
So clearly, you can kind of leverage people who are super diehard fans of The Last of Us, or I don't know, but Disco Elysium, that's also getting an adaptation.
Yeah, like why?
Well, yeah. God, so I know tons of people who love that game. I don't know if I would say, yeah, those people really want to watch it on Netflix. Right?
I mean, maybe if you told me like David Lynch was directing it, and
yeah, it would have to be its own thing.
Yeah, like I don't know, but
we'll see. We're skeptical. Okay, and very last thing. This was a different take on like what was popular at GDC. Bloomberg News is claiming that the game industry is obsessed with Elden Ring right now.
I think that's kind of true. At GDC, like everyone was talking about what they were just playing.
Right, and you were saying rumors about From Software being acquired by some larger behemoth. And I guess this is Jason Schreier, right, longtime investigative game journalist, basically laying out the case that like everyone is talking about. There was a buzz at the game developers conference.
I mean, I think Elden Ring, like it was at top of mind for sure. I definitely noticed that. I mean, they got me to play it, and I never.
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting. A lot more people are playing it.
Yeah,
there is an interesting. Well, you can kind of like grind your way up in that game without being very like good GUD at rolling really quickly to avoid giants like stomping on your head or whatever that game is about. So
you could just spam R1. Now.
Yeah, you just hit buttons, you button mash, and you kill things because you are level 150 or whatever. Yeah. So great. It's a whole new day for From Software games. I'm most interested in the arguments that people are having about the design choices in this game, which are idiosyncratic and weird, right? Like, there are some genuinely baffling choices where it's like players griefing each other by putting messages like right on ladders or on save points so that people can't use them. I'm like, oh, such a bad design choice, and yet so full of flavor. Anyway, I think we will leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the Discourse, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Nice seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for that, Naomi and Jeff. Always a pleasure. The Discourse is one of our favorite segments here. That was lots of fun. Thanks again for coming out. Thanks again to all of our hosts and guests for coming on to the stream today, and thank you to all in chat for tuning in. As a reminder, don't forget to tune in this Thursday, April 7th at 7 p.m. for Sean Pierre's lecture series Talk. That's all for now, and we'll see you next time.